Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy Mob. Today, I have two very special guests. I have the one, the only Mr. Glenn Pasch, and the internationally famous Jeff Williams. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to jam with me today.
Sure, great to be here.
It's a pleasure.
Hey, for everyone out there that's listening and watching right now and don't know about you two fine gentlemen, I think it'd be a great way to kick off our podcast today with a couple origin stories. So Glenn, I'll start with you. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Let's see, probably about 12 years ago now, I left a job that I'd been for about 12 years, 14 years before that. So I was sort of in job transition. I was doing some consulting work, and I went down to my brother who had started a digital agency. He was helping me market my consulting business. And as I was watching his business grow, he needed some help building structure and operations, and that's what I was good at. So we sort of traded services and then looked at each other one day and said, why don't we work together? So we've been together now since, I would say, probably 11, 12 years. And the other thing is automotive just was never a conscious decision. You know, when you start your own business, you do work for whoever, friends, families. And Brian tells a story that one of the people he went to, because he was just doing SEO, was the person he got his car from. And he said, "You need SEO." And the person said, "I have no idea what that was." So they come up with some barter trade. And automotive just was a very opportunistic time frame, because way back when, that was just when Digital Dealer was starting. That was just when there was a lot of there were a lot of forums way back in the day. You sat on the forums and chatted and spoke. And so we built our business really by writing, talking, getting it out to events, and then eventually hosting events. And so that's sort of automotive just has become our biggest vertical because we've been really successful at it.
It's one of those industries that once it sucks you in, it's got a hold of you and you will never get out. But you know what, Glenn, it's so true. I think for a lot of people that I meet, is like very few people ever just kind of one day go, you know what, I'm going to be in the automotive industry. You know, it seems like for the most of us, we all kind of fell into or walked into it. Or for me, I got conned into it from my roommate at the time. But Jeff, for yourself, how did you get started in this industry?
Oh man, it's kind of like your stories. Automotive became a second chance for me, and it became my best chance, at least best to date. And I'm in love with it as well as you guys are. You know, I was in the restaurant business, managing a restaurant, and up in Vancouver Island. And the owner of the hotel came to me and said, "Jeff, you're rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic. Get into sales and you'll make $1 million." So I found myself in the car business, found myself working for a training company, started my own training company 24 years ago. In my friend Brian's garage. And that was the beginning of Absolute Results 24 years ago in Victoria, BC.
That's awesome. I love businesses that start in a garage. I started in my basement. I hope 24 years from now, I get to tell the same story. Hey guys, I want to kind of kick off our questions today with just kind of getting a baseline, because it seems like every single time I jump on one of these podcasts with somebody, things are changing. I mean, things are changing so fast. I mean, they're changing weekly, daily. Depending where you are, it might even be hourly. So I'm curious for yourself, guys, what does the current norm look like for you? Glenn, I'll ask you, and then Jeff, I'll ask the same question.
From the day-to-day working with our clients, I would say nothing's changed in one facet. The team is still doing their work. I'm still chatting on the phone, talking, doing sales, creating content. The difference was probably about, I guess, we're going on 70 plus days, I guess, middle of March, we went to fully remote. So our agency, all of the people are working at home. They've managed very well. We sat in the beginning, I did a little webinar about working from home and what they needed to really focus on. And from agency work, you miss the collaboration of seeing each other, but the technical work that people would do, they're doing it and we're getting it done. Now, we have had the ability, I popped into the office once in a while, but other than that, my actual day, I was talking with a friend the other day, I've picked up 2 hours of commuting time back from not having to drive to the office, or just time being on airplanes. As much as I would like to travel, I'm getting more work done at home, because it's 9 o'clock in the morning into the office and out at lunch and then back in and doing work. So there's been good and bad. I mean, on one side, my wife actually today asked me the question, saying, we've been married 18 years. And she said, have we ever spent this long of a time together in one space? And I had to think about it. And I said, we've been together, like on honeymoon for 2 weeks or something, but not for 2.5 months. And I said, no. And we sort of laughed and said, okay, I guess we're good. We didn't kill each other yet. And, I spend more time with the kids, and it's been in a lot of ways very good and relaxing. And you got a chance to look at things and do things that maybe were always on your to-do list, but you didn't get to. So, but the company's doing well, adding on new clients. Company is, we're prepping for our conference, which we can talk about later, but we went from live to virtual. So that's been a big focus point for us. But, looking forward to getting back with the team. I think we've targeted July to start getting back in the office in some sort of rotation.
That's exciting, and I'm kind of hoping to do the same. I mean, a lot of my team's been remote for a very long time. So for us, that wasn't much of a change. Everyone was pretty used to that. But I do miss being on the road. Even though I'm with you, Glenn, I've, from a productivity perspective, the amount of time I've gained back, which has actually been kind of cool, because then I've been able to actually put that time back into spending with the kids. I just taught my youngest to ride a bike without training wheels today. So that was pretty cool. And I was just being able to find that time in the day to be able to do that. It's been some pluses,
Sure.
But I'm with you. I am looking forward to getting back on a plane. I am looking forward to getting back on the road. I'm a handshake kind of a guy. I love being in front of someone. So I hope that will happen sooner rather than later. Hey, Jeff, for yourself, what does your current norm look like?
Well, it's drastically different. I mean, we started this year off just gangbusters. And of course, we do business in 19 countries. And I visit most of them multiple times over the course of the year. So I probably missed out on 50,000 air miles, doggone it. And so it has been a big shift. I have enjoyed being home. It's been a challenge to find inspiring places. I do a lot of writing, create a lot of content, love being around dealers that are innovative and showing up in showrooms during events and training. And I love those inspiring opportunities. I do my best thinking at 30,000 feet, doggone it. So I've learned to do my best thinking in my home office, out in my little boat, go out on the water for a little bit there, and hop on the motorcycle, go to different places. So for me, it's been different. I mean, we've seen a big shift in our business. Obviously, any given month, we'll have 500 events happening with trainers and stores. And so basically to go almost zero in April. And now May, we're up 20%. We're 20% of our post-COVID or pre-COVID volume. In June, will be 50%. So we're seeing markets. We have our first events this weekend in France in 2 months, which is exciting. We have Belgium opening up. We've got, I think, some things at the end of the month in Australia. And of course, Western Canada has been a bit of an anomaly, Now it's dealer to dealer, one dealership. Well, it's funny. One of my reps was in one dealership a few weeks ago. He said I was in one side of the city and everybody was masks, plexiglass shields, like standing distance, and 10 minutes across town, everybody's high-fiving in the showroom. It's just crazy, the extremes. And of course, Western Canada wasn't as badly hit, and we're a little more spread out. But it's been interesting just to see the different reactions and responses of dealers to the market.
Yep.
And we have a lot of business in the U.S. in your area there, Glenn, in the Northeast, with a lot of the premium brands. So it's holy mackerel, it's lockdown city. It's New Zealand. It's
really
Australia.
is.
It's
It really is.
I don't know who in the world could have ever predicted. I mean, look, I went through the recession, and but that was like a 6 to 9 month buildup. Things kind of progressively got worse. At no point in time was, I think, as a business ever prepared to lose 80+% of my income or revenue in a 2-week period. So, boy, talking about having to pivot incredibly fast. Seems to be the overall strategy of everything right now, is how fast can we pivot. But because of what's happened, everything's changed. The customers change. I mean, I know I've changed. I mean, I know I've used this analogy now a couple times, but I don't think I'll ever go back into a grocery store. I mean, I have 3 kids under the age of 10. Right, going into a grocery store, guys, was like a black ops mission. Okay, it was like, we're gonna go to this aisle, we're gonna get this done. There's no talk. Everyone's gonna be quiet, and we're gonna be in, and we're gonna be out. We're gonna be on our way. And it's just, the consumers changed. I mean, I'm doing so much of my ordering now from this device, and in a very clean, awesome process where I can just pull up, I just flip open the tailgate, they toss it in, I drive off, I'm being more productive, spending less time. So the consumers kind of changed that way, and the markets had to adapt to a different way of retail, and not just that industry, but all retail in general. So I think that's kind of a great place to kind of start off our conversation, guys. Is I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions on how the customer and the market has changed. Glenn, I'll start with you, and then Jeff, I'll ask you the same question.
It's interesting. I think for your example of the supermarket, I like going to the supermarket. It's a place for me that's therapy, because I go by myself, and I like to cook. So I like seeing things, and the thought of someone picking the produce, they're not as good as me. So that's just me. But having to wear masks and watching, to Jeff's point, this, we had to, for a while, we had to wait online. So they only let a certain number of people in. And once you're in there, people are next to each other, they're touching things, putting it back down, and you're going, so it was a very mixed message. But I think from what you're saying is, I think that a lot of people are doing more research online because they can. I think there's going to be a lot of change in businesses. Just look at Zoom stock has gone crazy. But all of those shopping things like Instacart, or all of these different ones where someone's going to go. I mean, it's madness now in the supermarkets, because probably half of the people who are in there are those shoppers to fulfill your order. So there is a whole new industry coming out of this. I think that businesses just have to be prepared for the fact that people are coming out of this unsure physically what they're supposed to do. But I think it's convenience. I think that convenience that you were looking at in terms of shopping, that it's a very cliche, the thing said, the Amazon effect, right? Because I can go find whatever. But it is that idea of I can, on my computer, on my phone, I can search, shop, read reviews, make decisions, and then I push a button, and 2 days later it's on my front porch, or I can go pick it up. And I think retail, for the industry we serve, retail has been long hesitant because of what we were talking about pre-show, is this concept of I have to get them in here before I can start my process. That's gone, part because they had to pivot. To your comment there before, they had to pivot because, as Jeff mentioned, I'm in New Jersey. We were locked down. For a while, there was nothing. Then they went to, you could have your service open. Then they went to, well, if you want to sell a car, it has to be by appointment, which means almost everything had to be done over the phone, online, chat, text, however, DR tool, whatever you want to say. And basically you came to pick up the car. I think I've been writing about it and talking about it. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle. I think people are going to say, can we find some medium ground of that where, I want to come in and see the car, but I don't want to spend 15 hours in the dealership to do my stuff. So if I can I think dealers have to allow and focus on that experience on the phone of getting as much as I want to do online. And then when I come see Jeff in the showroom, he picks up where I left off and we get this thing done. I think that's what dealers were thinking about. You have progressive dealers that started it. But I think I wrote an article 2 or 3 weeks ago. It basically said everybody got pushed in the pool, whether you wanted it to be it or not. So you have people who are drowning. You have people who think they're doing a good job, which they're not. And then you have the other people who are like lapping everybody. So I think that's where we're going. And especially for retail, they want to get to that point of that Instacart concept.
Well, I think at the core of it, it's that convenience and that productivity that we kind of talked about, right? Like, I have an appointment next week for my Nissan Armada. Been having some transmission issues. I'm losing power right around 1,500 RPMs. So when I call the dealership, I'm like, I need to make an appointment. I need you to slot off some time because this is not just an oil change. I need to make sure you got the right tech there and everything. And they offered to me as a convenience. They're like, well, would you like us to come pick it up for you? Well, I was new. I was like, when did you guys start doing that? He goes, well, we started doing it recently. And I said, well, how much is it? He goes, it's $29.99. So an extra $30. So, to your kind of point earlier, Glenn, I'm kind of used to right now paying for a little extra convenience and a little extra productivity, right? I'll pay for that shopper to go shop for me. I'll pay for that person to deliver my food or so on. So I'm like, $30. All right, sure. That saves me. It's going to save me the hours of having to wait there. Do I really want to wait there in the first place? But yeah, I mean, as an industry, I will have to say, I'll give props to our industry actually, guys. In the last 2 months, and for an industry that's not used to changing or willing to change, for the general body of dealers out there, I think I've done a pretty phenomenal job actually of kind of stepping up to the plate. Now the game is actually starting, so we'll see how it goes. But Jeff, what are your kind of thoughts on how the customer and the market has changed and how that's going to affect our industry?
Well, it's really interesting. I gave a talk to about 100 BMW dealers back at the end of January. And one of the things I talked about was the whole concept or whole issue, the whole challenge, the big challenge of margin compression. And I said, if buying a car is a commodity, there is no solution to margin compression. None. Right? I said, the battle in the retail car business is a battle to decommoditize the car buying process. Right. So if we start with what we know or what we believe, all right, I believe 3 things about the retail car shopping or purchase experience. Number one, all right, it's complex and it's going to continue to get complex. Not is it just complex about the financing, about my trade's worth, am I leasing it or negative equity and all those things, but it's complex based on the new product coming out. As we see new hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles and all this new technology, new platforms coming together and OEMs merging, what we're seeing globally and the pressure internationally to shift the industry, it's going to be complex. Which model is the right one for me? Number 2, it's going to be experiential. 70% of customers still say the test drive is an important part of the buying process, right? And what is it? 73% say that they'll drive further for a good salesman to help them, or saleswoman, salesperson, right? So we know there's an experiential component. All right. And the third thing is it's passionate. I mean, it's personalized. I mean, I get passionate about the color of my vehicle and I'm in the industry. And so because of those things, there's unique opportunity, I think, for dealers to really personalize the buying process. Glenn, you're absolutely right. We need to give customers options to do things online. We absolutely do. But then we need to be able to grab our computer and go, hey, I'm just going to shoot you a little virtual walk around video. Matter of fact, in April, there was a sales rep at one of the dealerships in Calgary that sold 21 vehicles in April in the middle of a pandemic, right? And he did by sending 71 videos to customers, little videos he shot of walkarounds in vehicles. Now that's someone being innovative. That's somebody trying to personalize and create an experience even online. So I think we have a very unique opportunity. And I agree, we're in an industry that has not been a leader online. As a matter of fact, all the other retailers and all the other industries have gone ahead and defined what an online experience could or should be like. So we've been reactive, and hey, it's a complex purchase. So we have an opportunity, I think, whether it be through an appointment culture, whether it be through how we interact with the customer over the phone and really take a good interest in their needs and have a discovery conversation. But we have that opportunity to personalize and set up the right experience for them.
And see, I think all of that, what you're saying can be really boiled down to a very simple thing, is the fact that we as consumers now are very comfortable dealing online. And you make a good point, Jeff, is that every other business, you talk to people online, you can connect to somebody, you click a button and somebody's there, you're chatting with someone. The reason why we haven't changed is we didn't have to. It was still successful. And people were making money. So why do I need to change my process? I think it comes down to just a very simple thing. I launched an article today to just basically say, connect and speak and communicate with the customer wherever they want to be, whenever they want to be there, and help them. And keep it simple. What would you say if they were standing in front of you on the lot? It's that simple. So why can't you say that over chat? Why can't you say that over phone? Why can't we FaceTime? Why can't I pop into, if I have a tool online, why can't I pop a chat up and say, hey, Jeff, I see you're sort of hanging at this point. Can I help you with something? Or why do we have to have a form for check availability or schedule a test drive? Why can't it just go to some live person? Because most of the dealerships have people who have time on their hands. It's the oddest thing. And so I think this whole push to saying why, because I think customers are getting frustrated. I saw a great quote one time saying that you're no longer being judged. I think it was Brian, can't remember who it was now, Shep Hyken, big customer experience guy. And he said, you're no longer being judged against your competitor. You're being judged against every other business the consumer interacts with. So it isn't, and dealers are finally waking up to it isn't, well, I compete with Jeff's dealership. So if Jeff does this, as long as I do it, it's like, dude, you are now Instacart. You are this, you are that. It's that convenience and speed. And why are you making it hard to do business? To your point, Jeff, if all of this is complex, why are we making it even more difficult to just even talk to us?
Well, we've always made it difficult, haven't we? I mean, for the most part, as an industry, we're the ones that have always wanted to steer the conversation. We're the ones that want to define what the process is. I think, and to your point, Glenn, is that's what all the other industries decided to do, is that they gave the control of the process to the consumer. And the funny thing is, for a lot of them, it was more profitable. We have to adapt. We have to give them that ability to decide how they want to purchase a car. We can't tell them. It's like a dealership maybe needs to create 3 or 4 different processes and say, which one would you like to go down to? But even once we have those processes defined, it's like, how do we get customers into the dealership right now? I mean, I know, Jeff, you were talking about, you have some dealerships in France that are just now opening up. I mean, Glenn, I know where you are. The dealerships are now opening up. Our dealerships just started opening up, and I have talked to a lot of dealerships, and they're trying to figure out, what do they say to their customers? And Glenn, to your point earlier, it's like what we should be saying to them is what we normally say to them on the lot. I mean, these old, the old idea of yelling out huge discounts, low lease rates. I think we have to market to the customer, not at the customer. But that's kind of my next question for you guys is, what should we be marketing to our customers now, and how should we do that? Glenn, I'll start with you, and then Jeff, I'll ask you the same question.
Well, it's very funny because, Jeff, I also worked in the hospitality business, restaurants, for a long time. And I find a lot of similarities in restaurants and dealerships, because every day can be different, but there are structures and things that you have to follow in order to be successful. But in terms of marketing, it's the same thing. I think Jeff hit it really well. It's experiential. I mean, think of all the restaurants where you live. And if I came to visit and I said, okay, Jeff, I'm buying dinner, where do we go eat? You're going to go here. And it's not just going to be because the food or the price. You're going to say, boy, they take care of you. Right. So if the car is the car, we should be marketing. It's funny. One of you said it earlier, and it was a great point. And I don't think we should skim over it, is, why should I even do business with you? I think we get caught up in the deal, discount, price. I think you should be marketing the fact that we'll do it online. We already know that you don't want to come in yet because we're all trying to figure this out. So here's what we're going to do. Do as much as you want online. We'll talk to you. We'll pick up. You want to come in and test drive it? Hey, it'll be clean and sanitized, and we can be done with this. I think the idea of an appointment should no longer be to start the deal. I think the appointment should be to pick up your damn car. And so I think marketing should be about convenience, speed. We're here. We'll do whatever you want to do. Answer. We'll talk to you. All of that. On top of, we're safe, we're clean, or whatever, and people are going to come in. But I think if you go to market with that, I think you get more opportunities to talk. And then to Jeff's point is, stop making it so damn hard and confusing. Like, the only time you're going to get the truth is if you come in here like, I'm the keeper of the secrets, right? Versus, I'll give you everything right now. And people are so used to that, they're going to come in. And then to Jeff's point is, give them a great experience. That's what you need to be focusing on.
I love that, Glenn. I mean, I love the idea of marketing process over product. Because I think in reality, what we're going to see from dealers that are going to be successful moving forward is they're going to have to process their way to profitability. I don't think look, I mean, we're all marketing people here. There's no magic pill. There's no diet pill or 12-minute ab solution for this. It's really processing our way to profitability. But Jeff,
and before Jeff starts, but his point before was about margins. You're not going to make it up on the car. But if I told what we are seeing, at least down here, some of our clients and some other people have called us up, is because they've leveraged the technology, because they're getting so much done online, they're selling 70% of their pre-COVID levels, right? 80% of their pre-COVID levels with 40% of their previous staff. So to Jeff's point, if you want to start compressing, it's going to be, if I could come back and sell what I sold before with half of my labor,
why not?
That's where
right?
You're going to start getting more to profitability, to Jeff's point earlier.
Oh, for sure. Jeff, kind of your thoughts on what we should be marketing to our customers now and how should we be doing so?
Well, one of the distinctions that I think we miss sometimes, and yes, we want to serve the customer. We exist to serve the customer, but it's not about customer leadership. It's about sales leadership. The customer still needs to be led through the process. Yes, we want to lead him with options so they get to choose what the next step is. But if we're going to have the opportunity to really delight them, to give them options. All right. This is one of my favorite, to give them options they didn't know they had. If we haven't been able to engage and ask them really good questions, that's where we build value as a professional in the industry. It's not point, click, and buy. For some it will, but not for the majority of people. I think a lot of us are still very highly relational. We want someone to guide us through this complex car purchase experience. So I think we have to keep in mind that part of our job is to be a sales leader, is to lead the customers with good questions and giving them options, not by withholding information or manipulating, but giving them options, and give them options they didn't know they had. And oh my goodness, wow, you're going to build value, create value. The other thing which we found has been hugely effective, and I got to tell you guys, it's so common sense, but it's so powerful. We'd adopted a strategy in middle of April, where we would work with dealers and reach out to their customers with our call center. And we would reach out to customers saying, hey, just calling to see if we can help you. We called to help them. We called because, we had customers just like you who needed a vehicle service work done, had a vehicle breakdown, had their lease expiring, had a son or daughter who was taking public transport and didn't want them taking public transport, so they needed a smaller used car. We had so many customers just like you. We just want to reach out and make sure you're okay and see how we can help you. Right? And by offering to help them, the actual response rate was 50% higher than if we had just called pre-pandemic to sell them. So if you reach out to customers sincerely with a desire to help and then giving them options, we just want to reach out to help you because customers just like you have A, B, C, D, or E. And if that applies to you, how can I be of assistance? Oh my goodness, that just opens doors. And to this day, I was reading reports from one of our campaigns this week in Ontario, where you are, Jason. This dealer was so scared to talk to his customers, and we walked him through the script and the word tracks. Forgive me, it's word tracks, and how there would be dialogue involved. And he said, okay, let's try it. And sure enough, we helped him book 15 service appointments, also found some sales opportunities. So I've been rambling a little bit, forgive me, but I'm very passionate about this, about sales leadership, and certainly about being able to reach out with a helping offer and stumbling across opportunities to help them upgrade their vehicle.
Well, we're definitely seeing right now the cream rising to the top. I'm sure you guys are seeing a lot of this right now. I mean, from a manager's perspective, from ownership's perspective, from salespeople's perspectives. I mean, we are going to see the best of the best kind of rise. And some of the people, to your point, Glenn, you were kind of mentioning it earlier, there's a lot of dealerships out there, they're doing a lot with a little. And, the idea of that notion of just flooding your floor, I think it's going to go away. And people are going to really take note of who's on the floor and, what they're trained to do. And I think a lot of that has to do with around the appointment. I mean, I know we've always push, get them in the door, but it's starting that conversation and creating that appointment on that customer's time to be able to do that. But I think that's kind of a fundamental culture shift for a lot of dealerships. And I'd love to kind of get your guys' thoughts on that, is how do we create an appointment culture within our dealership? Glenn, I'll ask you the question, and then Jeff, I'll ask you the same.
See, I actually think we're asking the wrong question, because that's the problem, is that it's what does the appointment do? Meaning the problem in the past was the appointment, we couldn't do anything till you came in here. So BDCs or even salespeople, they, gave them enough to get them to come in, to go like, all right, I guess I got to come in to do this. Like, like, why can't you answer my question? Right. Literally. And to Jeff's point, and Brian, my brother, and I talk about it all the time, is this concept of serve. Like I said earlier, like a very simple thing is like, is this car available? And you push it and it's a form. So think about the lot. Somebody said, hey, Jeff, is that car available? Give me your name. I'll call you tomorrow. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? So we've done this whole thing to just satisfy, we have leads and get names, and then we chase people. So now I got to chase Jason about checking availability, but he's moved on. He's now doing something else, and now I'm interrupting him, and he's like, I don't even want to talk to you now. Why weren't you there when I needed you, right? So the point is, the appointment culture, we have to sort of smash the whole thing of saying, and break that concept of, well, if I give them too much information, they're going to shop and they're going to go somewhere else. At the end of the day, they're going to do that anyway. But we always design our processes for those 15, 20% that are always going to go bargain hunting. And we miss the 80% that will pay us more to have a better experience. And so I think if all of what we should be learning is, well, I would ask any dealer right now to say, what did you do when you were closed? If you couldn't have showroom traffic, what did you do to sell cars? Don't stop that. Build on that. Answer questions. People came in and bought cars. Now, how can you replicate that? How can you expand that so that you can sell more? And then you'll still have people coming in. I just think the idea of an appointment being, let's sign paperwork, do more, finagle and find it, is this the right car? Let me quickly test drive this. But we're 90% there, instead of we're 10% there, and now we got to do that 80% in the middle or whatever it is and that's where that time, let me pass you over to someone else, right? So to Jeff, to your point, I always use the analogy and people started laughing. Think about when you waited tables. You were a manager, right? I was a manager. I did everything in restaurants. Can you imagine someone coming up to you and going, well, I'm the drink waiter. Oh, Jason's going to come over. He's the specials waiter. Oh, you want pasta? Hold on. I got to go get Jeff. He's our pasta waiter. And someone else is the steak waiter. And someone else is the fish waiter. Well, that's what we do in the dealership. Oh, you have a question about F&I? I got this person. Oh, you want to talk about used cars? Value your trade? Oh, I got someone over here. Hold on. I got to give you the map. We just make the process so complex instead of just saying, now, part of it is the manufacturer. Part of it is all the features, but at the end of the day, we still make it harder instead of saying, can I just talk to one person? One person. Can I do this whole deal with one person? And that's what they're finding out in this era, is because managers are doing it more. Top salespeople who can do F&I and walk people through the process, they're going, why do I need 15 people anymore? And the customers go, this was much better. So I think that's where we have to go. And the appointment should be closer to just picking up the car than starting the conversation. That's what I think we have to get to.
I think that's really interesting, Glenn. I think just going straight to conversation, removing every single form or gateway, or just get straight into the conversation, and the appointment only being the actual delivery or finalization of the product. I think that'd be really cool. It'd be interesting, of course, to see, who actually ends up.
We're doing it. We have a couple clients who have done it because we've been coaching them through the whole retailing process. They've removed all the forms from their websites, and their sales opportunities have gone through the roof. Why? Because now they're having conversations earlier on. And so people don't have to leave and go to another website. They don't have to go to the other dealer, because when I pushed a button and asked for get e-price or, hey, tell me about this, guess what? Jeff popped up and said, hey, I'm the manager here. What can I help you with? Lo and behold, like Jeff said, I can start having those conversations, start talking about options, give them options. Now I just start, come talk to me. They know I like Jeff. I'm not going anywhere else.
That's true, because you get that instant connection. Jeff,
Exactly.
your thoughts kind of on that appointment culture and how that may change within our dealership.
I think we have to go, what is the purpose of an appointment culture? What is the purpose of having an appointment with a customer? And one of the core fundamental reasons to have an appointment, which is the reason to have an appointment culture, is we want more appointments, is that we can be prepared for the customer. I mean, oftentimes I'm in front of dealers or dealer groups and I tell this story. I say, you know what, we knew Glenn was coming in at 3:00 today. So man, are we ready for him? We've pre-appraised his trade. We've checked the service history on it. We know which vehicle he's coming in to look at. We've got a couple of vehicles selected, pre-selected for him. You know, manager's ready to meet him and shake his hand when he gets here. We are ready. We have an opportunity to deliver an incredible customer experience. Oh, but Jason, dang, I didn't know Jason was coming. And at 1:00, oh, everybody's on their lunch break. Manager's not around. The vehicle he wants to see is in the back. It's not even ready. There's no gas in it. Photocopier is jammed to photocopy his driver's license for a test drive. Oh, I'm screwed before I get started almost. Now, that's an extreme example. But you know what? When we do have an appointment, if we see the appointment as my chance to shine, to make the unfun fun, to give Jason or Glenn an incredible experience in my store, you know, we can't forget, and I don't think it's changed that much yet, and maybe it won't ever change. There's 3 purchases that happen when somebody buys a car. First, they buy the person. Then they buy the product, and then they buy the opportunity or the deal. Remember the old clothes we used to use, the 3 Ps? Is it me? Is it something I did? Is it the car? You don't like the car? Price? Is it the price? Person, product, price, or the 3 M's, me, money, machine. You know, it was a classic close, and all of us in the business used it thousands of times, but it was based on the 3 buying decisions. And so I think the power of connection, and certainly to Glenn's point, when you respond promptly, when you're like, wow, that's a great question, and let me share some information with you, when you're not withholding, when they don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops, that helps build that connection. And that combined the speed and efficiency with the quality of the interaction and the empathy. I bought that person. I want to do business with that person. Right now, they're going to be my guide to help me find the right vehicle. And I'm likely going to trust them when the opportunity is presented financially. Right. And again, it's every dealership has their own systems and processes. But if we say that we want to have an appointment culture because our customers deserve that we take good care of them. Right. And then that appointment could be anywhere along the stage of buying that customer has decided to go with us. All right. So if we're giving them options on the phone where we can have an exploratory conversation over the phone first, and we engage them well and have dialogue. It's all about dialogue. We call them intelligent conversations with customers. You know, and so if we're able to do that effectively, we can have appointments. We can build our entire sales process around appointments. We can set our goals and forecasts around appointments. We can then look at, Glenn, you know, what % of my appointments are going to come from my Conquest digital marketing? What % are going to come from my portfolio of business that I'm working? And we have a lot of unique opportunities when we're intentional about appointments.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Jeff, I think it's breaking down, and I think you started that your answer correctly. It's the appointment. We should be building our business around the appointment, meaning when they show up, we should be giving them a great experience, right? Picking up where we left off, right? So again, the problem is a lot of dealerships are stuck into, I can't get started till you show up. So I don't even want to.
I agree. Absolutely. Perhaps the appointment is to have a phone call with them or to have a Zoom call with them. Perhaps the appointment isn't necessarily just an appointment to be in the store, but it's an appointment to have a meaningful, engaging, quality conversation.
I just think that it's that concept of, I go back to it, what would you do if they walked up on the lot?
Sure.
How would you greet them? What would you ask them? Right? A million different questions. I say this all the time. You both have seen it. So if Jason comes on, it's a Nissan. What's your car? Your Nissan. What do you have, Jason?
Armada.
Okay, so he comes on the lot and he points to me and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" I introduce myself. I said, what are you doing here? And he goes, "Hey, that Armada over there. What do you tell me about that Armada?" I start going, "That's an awesome vehicle. A lot of my customers have it." And as we walk across the lot, I start asking Jason, to your point, Jeff, the exploratory questions. What do you like? Have you driven one before? Are you leasing? You buying? Blah, 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 blah. All of those things. How come when Jason points to that same vehicle on our virtual showroom, our website.
Sure.
My response is, here's your car, when you want to come in. Hey, did you get my email? When do you want to come in? Hey, I haven't heard from you. Do you have any other questions? When you're like it's silly that we don't treat his pointing out the vehicle on the virtual showroom with the same respect, the same consistency, to Jeff, your point, of the same process of engaging and being there for them and giving that experience. Why is it different, right? And a lot of times I go back to, we're not even staffing our virtual showroom because of the forms. You're basically telling them nobody's here. It's 11 o'clock in the morning and you have a question about a car. Nobody's here.
Call us.
Nobody's here. Nobody's here to help you. I mean, think about that. So I think you're right, Jeff. The appointment can be anywhere. So I don't want to get caught up in the, I don't want dealers to get caught up of, but that's what they do, is appointment starts this. And I'm saying the conversation starts somewhere. Maybe the appointment is when they physically show up, and then you have a process to, what do we do to wow them when they get there? But they should have been wowed by you, to your point, Jeff, about buying the person. And I'm selling them on the product when they get here, or else they're coming in guarded going, oh man, I got to deal with it. Here they go, the dealers. They hide stuff and they show up on the lot guarded. And then you can wow them all to death and they go, that's bullcrap.
You know, your brother Brian talks about dealers having a brand promise. I've heard him talk about that multiple times. And I think that's powerful. One of the things we started doing last year, as we would call and confirm appointments, is we said, stop calling it a confirmation. It is not a confirmation. It's a virtual meet and greet, right? We're calling to add value. We're calling to tell a customer how grateful they are that they're giving us an opportunity, you know, because they have many choices, places they could go. And when you act, and part of what we would do is say, hey, just, you know, here's what typically happens when a customer visits our dealership. We do these 3 things, you know, and so we kind of put our process or a brand promise out front. And we use risk reverse language, obviously, and language to engage that customer. And I think to your point too, Brian, is on a virtual showroom, who's typically engaging with those virtual customers? Is it a BDC rep? Is it a bot, excuse me? Is it, who is it, you know? And why have we relegated that? You know, we're so easy to try to eliminate people as the problem or as the cost in the business. I'd rather see us have just as many people, but far more efficient, far more effective, because those soft skills, that's part of the art of selling, of leading the customer, that I think is part of the decommoditization of the car business. When I have someone that I can have an engaging conversation, that's the soft skills to interact with me. And I don't see a lot of teaching and training on those soft skills anymore.
Well, that's because for a lot of the times we just stop training about the experience. Like honestly, we almost kind of stopped talking about it. I mean, I think for a fair amount of dealerships out there, they've done a good job, and Glenn, you were talking about earlier, at defining that in-dealership experience. I think for the most part, we execute it pretty well. I mean, definitely some better than others, but it's like we totally forgot about our digital dealership. Like we just totally forgot that dealership is there, in fact, gets more traffic and more engagement than our physical dealership does. And I think and you guys have already kind of started answering this next question, but I just want to define the question real quick so that I can get it out of both of you. Is you know, how does that dealership create that better online experience? How do they take what we've done well physically and bring it, you know, digitally? I know during, you know, all this COVID-19, we've been forced to do that, but I think the game has just begun. I think everyone stepped up to the plate. Now, actually, the game has just begun. I'd love to get both of you guys' thoughts on how do we create that better online experience moving forward. I know you guys have already touched a little bit on that, but Glenn, I'll start with you.
Well, I think you're right. Everybody got pushed into the pool. You know, people's dealerships got shut down and said, if you want to sell, you got to figure this out. Now, some of them have digital retailing tools and they just threw the tool on and thought, okay, now they were scrambling to figure it out. Other places, what happened was they had to furlough or lay off, or in some cases terminate some salespeople. So the only people that were left were your general managers, general sales managers, top, who could do everything. And because they only could talk on the phone, they did exactly that. They started talking to them as if they were sitting in front of them. If they emailed, well, then I'm emailing you the information so that you will eventually call me or whatever, right? They forced their hand without thinking about it. So I think the problem with dealerships in my opinion, and I've talked to them about this, is the fact that we've allowed technology and the world and whatever we want to talk about it to move past. My belief has always been BDCs were created because leaders in the dealership allowed salespeople to go, well, I'm not answering the phones. I'm not sending emails. I'm not good at that. So then it was like, well, do I get rid of him or her because they sell cars? Oh, I'll go hire someone else. But then the argument is I'll find somebody who has, to just point, the soft skills, or use soft skills, who's good on the phone and they can handle computers, but don't you sell. That's over there to that person. So I think if you took a step back and just said, okay, let's just pause everything. If you looked at your website as a consumer and said, where am I throwing obstacles? Why? Why do I need a form? Why do I have 87 call to actions on a VDP? Why do I have 2 trade-in tools? Why do I have get today? Here's your price. Here's your discount. Here's the dealership price, but get today's price. Like, who does today's price? And every day is today's new price. And everybody thinks it's a game. So now they don't believe your website. Then it's confusing. What button do I push, right? And then it's just, here's form after form, which leads to everybody using the junk email that we possess, right? We give them some fake number, John Smith, and then your BDC, to Jeff's point earlier, efficiency. Well, probably 25% of the leads are garbage because you force people. You said, here's your price, calculate your payment, but you got to give me your name to use the tool. Okay. Go away at goawaygmail.com. And I get my access. And then you're going, hey, but we got all these leads. How come we didn't set appointments? You're fired. Like, it's nuts. So I think if we just said to ourselves from two ends, what would we do if they were standing in front of me? Go look at your email communications, and are we saying the same thing? If not, fix them. What do we say when somebody gets on the phone? If we're not saying the same thing as if Jeff is standing in front of me, do that. Then go look at your website and say, where would a customer go through? Are there obstacles? If I push a button, am I going to talk to Jeff? If my start on a VDP, or if I'm in a tool and I'm there too long, because you know how long they're there, because the tools will alert a manager, hey, Jeff, someone's in the tool over here. Why can't Jeff pop up after a little bit and do what he just said? I'm here to help you. I know the car buying process is confusing. I'm here to help you. Like, that to me would be a great auditing starting point. The fear that I have is that when we go back to whatever normal, no masks or whatever, or people get used to coming back in, everyone goes, okay, we can go back to what we used to do because that worked. And you're going to frustrate consumers even more because they got a taste of it and said that was damn easy. Now we're back to making it hard.
That's a really good point, Glenn.
I think those are both ways that you could just very simple, like, it's not complex. Just what would you say? Go look at your emails. If you're not saying it, retype the damn thing.
No, it's creating a disconnect. It's that handoff from your virtual dealership to your physical dealership. And I think for years it's been like this far off. And I think you'll find the most progressive dealerships out there, like the Benz stocks, and they're finding ways to try to get that line way more closer, where it's just a linear transition from digital to physical. And I think it's because, to your point, we've all said this, the customer demands it now. I think we're beyond the point, guys, of this being a good idea. or a novel strategy. We're at the point now where the customer demands it. But Jeff, I'd like to get your thoughts on how does a dealership create a better online experience during COVID, and then of course moving forward as we progressively open up.
Sure. Well, I think one of the things we haven't done a good job of differentiating is the difference between customer service and customer experience. And there's multiple ways to define that. Typically, customer service in my books is reactive. Somebody clicked a link, they inquired, they called, they walked in, we're reacting. Whereas customer experience is proactive. And actually, it's longer. It starts before they start shopping, if it's someone in our portfolio, and it continues on after they make that purchase. Why? Because they're in our portfolio. All right. And so if we're thinking that the experience, not just the service, we're actually trying to anticipate our customers' needs. right? That's a big part of it. And whether that's somebody who's in your database that you want to make sure you reach out to 4 times a year, twice a year with a goodwill message, or twice a year with the sales message, or whatever rhythm you've determined is going to give you the yield of retention in your dealership. And then the other side of it too is on a day-to-day basis, we have an appointment culture. Why? So we can be prepared for the customer. So we can have a huddle every day and say, okay, who's coming in on appointments today? How are we preparing to deliver a quality, high-value experience? Same thing with your one-on-ones as a sales manager. Most one-on-ones are looking backwards, driving with the rearview mirror. How many ups did you have yesterday? What did you do? How many test drives? No, how many appointments have we created? How can I help you create appointments for today? How can I help you add value to customers today? So it's a whole different mindset when you start thinking of a high value customer experience. And you need to be prepared for that customer, and you need to be intentional about that customer and try to anticipate their needs.
I think anticipating their needs right now, or at least respecting what their needs are, is as an industry is what's going to push us to success. And for us to do that, we have to process it. It all comes down to processing the crap out of it.
Well, it's twofold. It's the process, but I'm sure Jeff has run across it. That's why we all have businesses, because what Jeff just described, Jeff, honestly, in your experience, what you just talked about, forward thinking. Well, yeah, we can look about what happened yesterday, but it's more about having that huddle. Who's coming in today? Are we prepared? Having really good one-on-ones. Like, what percentage of dealerships do you see that really happening in on a consistent basis, meaning process driven? We don't stop. It happens what would you say?
Oh, it's probably less than 10%.
Right. So that's the point. Like, that's the struggle. And that's why some of the more progressive dealers, the ones who are process driven, who just say, think of it this way, and Jeff will understand. When you worked in a restaurant, especially even a franchise restaurant, remember, they're franchises, right? Mm-hmm. They're franchises theoretically. But if Jeff gets hired, right, and he goes in and he's the manager of pick any franchise you want, and he's the new manager who comes in because this store was struggling. Jeff doesn't come in and go, all right, we're throwing everything out. We're going to do it my way. They're going, we already have processes. We already have systems in place. I need you to make those people better at our processes, not change. Now, if you have some ideas, great. But that's what happens is that it's very personality driven. It's very ego driven. There's not a lot of process. There's not a lot.
That's why we need to build process-driven success accelerated by people as that X factor rather than personality-driven success, which has been a lot of the industry. But we've had 2 major exoduses of talent from the industry in the last 20 years, 2 major ones. So there has been a lot of talent drain. There has been a lot of salespeople promoted into managers, and there is a lack of this leadership type training to show what are the best practices of the top stores. And
how many actually know how to create a process? How many managers actually know how to create one, right? Sorry. Anyways, go ahead, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's why, again, we exist, and I have the honor of working with great stores and going and sharing and learning best practices and sharing them, and so do my 135 trainers when they're in dealerships. And my job is to keep them abreast and say, okay, what is the process and how does it actionable in a store? Because you're right. There are certain things that we just know. We know that if a dealership does one-on-ones every day with their salespeople, we know what the product will do to the productivity, to the retention, all those things. Yep. But then where does it fit in the day of a sales manager? Because today, 2 managers do what 3 managers used to do, right? And how do we help them understand how to make the priorities and prioritize their time and interact with their people? So it's quite an opportunity. But the opportunity is there. And I think dealers are realizing right now that, we've been shifting by inches. And now we have a chance, an opportunity to shift by feet. And let's not miss it. Let's not miss it.
Right. And I think to your point is that there is a lot of, to Jason's point about, and what you said, Jeff, people do get promoted into positions. And there was a talent drain. Some of it was just aged out. People retired. But things have changed now. And yes, people are doing more, but I think sometimes it's busy work that just they like being busy instead of efficient or effective. But I think if there's one big flaw or missing piece, I wouldn't say flaw, missing piece in automotive is that leadership training. People get promoted and they go figure it out. And there's nobody out there. I mean, it's why I started my YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago, because I just got frustrated. I said, I'm just going to give content out to people to say, listen, here's just some tips on how, because I saw so many times people were promoted and just left to flounder, and then they get blamed, and then they go, this is crazy. And then they go, and then to your point, Jeff, there's a leadership churn or potential good leaders there, but they're going, this is crazy. Like, I'm being held accountable and nobody's helping me figure it all out. Like, I'd rather go somewhere else where I'll make a little less, but they actually do have training. And so I think why we have a lot of churn in our business is there has been no, like Enterprise Rent-A-Car has great management training. They work just as long or longer. I talked to a gentleman one day when I was renting a car. He works 78 hours a week. But he knows that I do this training and I have that training, and eventually I'll be a regional manager and I can do this type of thing. Like there's a plan for him to go somewhere. And so it's not about, there's people out there who don't want to work hard. It's not about, well, they have to work long hours in the dealership. There's tons of, it's the fact of what's in it for me if I do this, other than, hey, you'll make some money. That only goes so far.
Sure. And I think we have a unique opportunity. I know we're running out of time here, Jason, but when I try to travel around the world, especially in Europe and Australia, there's such a younger generation of sales professionals in the industry. We're seeing it more and more. We look at what percent of a sales staff are Generation X and boomers versus Generation Z and millennials, and these young people, they are eager, but they are hungry for a pathway to success. Show me what I need to do. They want to be busy. They want to do meaningful work. Well, what's more noble than helping someone make one of the most important buying decisions and financial decisions of their life, one that they make every 3 to 5 to 6 years? That's a noble thing to do. So I think there's a neat opportunity here. All the changes in the industry, what's happening with our recent pandemic and crisis, but there's a great opportunity for the industry to continue to shift and more substantially and intentionally towards what this noble industry can be.
I think there's huge opportunity right now for our leaders to invest back into their businesses, or our owners to invest back into their businesses. And I get that question actually asked a lot right now. If I am going to invest anywhere in my business, where I'm going to invest. And I hate to say it, but I don't necessarily believe it's in technology as much as it's in that leadership training. Look, when I first got into the business, I worked for Radio Shack before I got into the car business. And I went to Radio Shack because I read an article in Forbes magazine that talked about how they had the best management training in the world at that given time, right? That's not necessarily the case anymore. But it was that is what I was hungry for. And to your point, Jeff, I think there's a lot of people that are not necessarily interested in this industry because, loud promises of 6-figure incomes and it is just not enough anymore, because I don't know if necessarily it's always true. It's people looking for a direction. They want to know how they can progressively increase their opportunities within the career path. Hey guys, I know it's getting towards the end of our time, so thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me. Before you guys go, I get to ask my last question.
There's one thing on that before I start.
Yes.
Because I think what it is to that point is the only thing that a lot of people pitch in dealerships is sales, and they don't understand how big automotive is. What I taught at Northwood University, and there was so many people who they just understood the vastness, or we talked to them about how big automotive really is and all the different things you can do in this industry. But all we do is sell sales versus that pathway. And to Jeff's point, the more that you can give them this path, I think there's tons of people who are hungry. It's just, well, what happens if I don't do well in sales? Is there any other avenue? So I think to your point is, I think if people started, they have enough technology. They don't need another damn piece of technology. Go invest in your people, hire Jeff, tell him to come in and teach them how to do leadership. I think that will retain and that will make dealerships able to do what Jeff was saying in terms of experience and deliver that value to them. But you got to put your money in the right place, and it's got to be the people now.
And I think it's a wonderful time to do that. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people that I know within my LinkedIn community. There's a lot of talent in the pool right now. There's
Sure.
a lot of talent, more than I think there's ever been in the past, and they're looking for something to jump onto. Hey guys, before we sign off here, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now and would love to connect with you two fine gentlemen, what is the best way to do so? Glenn, I'll start with you.
Well, on social media, it's just Glenn Pasch on everything from LinkedIn to Facebook, Twitter. Those are probably the three that I do the most. Then you can also get a hold of me at my company, pcgdigital.com. Pretty simple. I'll answer. I'll chat with you.
Go out, buy the book.
I don't know. Yeah, the book back here, that one there.
Yeah, that one back there, right? Hey, Jeff, for yourself, what is the best way to connect with you?
Probably the best way is just go to our website, absoluteresults.com. And my email is Jeff, Jeff, at absoluteresults.com. There is a tab, which is the AR News tab, where you can subscribe. And as I publish articles and they get written and put out videos, you can subscribe to those and receive those. That's probably the easiest way.
And don't you have an ebook coming out?
I do, yes. Actually, putting an ebook together, 3 Keys to the Restart. It'll be available within the week, and I'll be happy to share it with you and your listeners as well.
Awesome, guys. For everyone out there who's listening and watching right now, you better go and download that because it's a mandate. No. Hey, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. You guys have yourself an amazing day.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that's the show. That's how we do it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Right.
Guys, that was
so
fun.
what's pissing you off right now?
I know I didn't get a chance to ask it because I know it's running at the end of time, and that's okay. I will have to say, guys, like, this has been one of the best ones because I'll tell you, most of the time I'm the one that's having to like poke and push and get the two guests to actually engage with each other. You guys it was awesome. Like, I'm telling you, I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is like content gold right now. Please keep going.
Thanks, Glenn. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the conversation with you there.
Pleasure
Thank
meeting
you, Jason.
Great conversation.
This was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Cool.
Have a good one.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.